if you want to be rich? Yes? Most of, two hands, yay! Most of us want to be rich. And I want to be rich too. But how do you define rich? How do you define rich? Say one word.
Lots of money.
Wealthy.
Money.
Right.
Money, wealth, probably big house, fancy cars, extravagant vacations. We usually equate being wealth with material wealth. But what's the point of having all those material wealth? What's the point? So we what? When we have a lot of money, big house, fancy vacation, so what?
Gratification.
What?
Gratification.
Gratification? So you want to feel something, right? Ultimately you want to feel. You want to feel what?
Happy.
Happy, safe, loved. Want to feel great. But then, let me ask you, have you met someone who has a lot of money, living in luxury, but they are lonely, sad, and angry, or just downward miserable? Have you met someone like that in your life?
Yeah.
We all have. We all have. And that is someone whose material has a lot of material wealth, but emotionally bankrupt. But we, a lot of us, grow up are conditioned to prioritize pursuing material wealth and actually neglecting our emotional wealth. And we assume when we get this material wealth, then automatically it leads to emotional wealth. But that's not true at all. And I am a living example of that. I grew up poor in China. My parents struggled to make ends meet. We didn't have a color TV until I was 16 years old. We never had refrigerator in my house. And we never took any family vacations because they didn't have money. So I grew up thinking, once I'm able to get in a good school, get a great job, make a lot of money, and afford all the things my parents couldn't afford, then I will be happy. And that's exactly what I did. I was a straight A student. I went to a top university in China. Then I came to the US to pursue my MBA in an elite business school. Climbed the corporate ladder. One day, I made more money than I ever imagined. And I bought a big, nice house in Hollywood. And I took a lot of extravagant vacations. Skiing in Japan, surfing in Bali, doing safari in South Africa. It all looked glamorous from outside. But guess what? How I felt inside. I really felt miserable. I hated my job. Hated it. That the bureaucracy, the politics and toxic people like drained me every day. Every day at the end of the day, I had no energy for anything else. And I was in a terrible, terrible relationship. My partner and I, we constantly bickered, argued, and fought. The house was not full of love, was full of tension. And guess what? Also, I didn't have any close friends to lean on. So I felt lonely and isolated. That's when I realized, what is this the point of having all this material wealth when I am emotionally bankrupt? When I was living in emotional poverty. That's not point of life. So then I started realizing I need to start building my emotional wealth. Just like how I intentionally build my material wealth, it's the same process. It requires learning the skills. It requires work, and it requires practice. That's when I learned how to regulate my emotions. That's when I learned how to change my thoughts. That's when I learned how to say no, how to set boundaries, and how to take care of my physical and emotional needs. But slowly but surely, I feel different. And now I would say I am emotionally wealthy. I feel calm, confident, and content. I may not make as much money as I used to make, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I'm happier than ever. So that's what I learned. What I learned is that emotional wealth is the foundation of living a good life. And when you have emotional wealth, it really doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank account, and you will feel great about yourself. So now what about you? Emotional wealth, material wealth. What are you focusing on? What are you prioritizing? How are you investing your time and energy? And I challenge you to investing in building your emotional wealth. Because once you have your emotional wealth, doesn't matter whether you have money or not have money, you're gonna feel great about yourself. And that's the true definition of being rich.